Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Tanya from the product marketing team here at WebEngage, and today we'll be discussing about personalization, a very important feature or a very powerful feature. However, it is still underutilized in a lot of marketing campaigns out there. So while we'll be discussing everything that's related to personalization, starting from what personalization is, how you can leverage and use it in your marketing campaigns to generate more engagement from your users. I would encourage you to keep posting your questions in the comments section that you can see. So as soon as we're done with the presentation, I will take up these questions and answer these questions live. Great. So now let's get started with personalization. So the first question is why you need to embrace personalization. Now, to understand this, consider an example. Consider the number of messages in the form of push notifications, emails, WhatsApp, SMS that a user, or you for a matter of fact as a user, is receiving on a day to day basis from multiple brands. It could be messages from your food delivery app, messages from your groceries app, messages from your e-commerce apps, or also messages from your investment or mutual fund apps. So while there is a lot of communication that the user is receiving, how do you ensure as a brand that the message that you are also sending to your consumer does not get lost in the sea of messages? How do you make sure that the message that you're conveying to your user stands out while everybody is trying to send messages to chase the same goal, which is to get users to engage with the message that the brands are sending? A simple answer to this is you need to incorporate personalization in your marketing campaigns to seem like your message is communicating to your user on a one to one level. Beyond being able to connect with your user at a one to one or a personal level, what personalization also helps you is identify certain behavior traits or certain likes and dislikes of users, which can then be used into the communication that you're sending to your user. For example, the message on the right here that you can see conveys that this user's favorite shoes are back in stock and it's urging the user to buy these now. So if I know that the user likes this product, and if I send a communication which is similar to what the user has liked on my platform, it would make sure that the user would make sure that they're going ahead and clicking on this to buy their favorite shoes. Since we already know that the user has a liking for these shoes, therefore the user is our low hanging fruit at this point. Great. I would also like to take this point before we get started with how of personalization to take a step back and understand what is the difference between personalization and segmentation. Now, consider this example. A user visits your website and browses for a flight, but the user quits your platform without going ahead with booking the flight. The message that you can see right now under the segmentation is something that you would send if if you create a segment of users who did this behavior, which was search for flights but do not go ahead with the transaction. While you've created this segmentation, a message that says something on the lines of continue your flight booking at 15% off is relevant, however, might not be the best to generate the open rates or the engagement that you're looking for. What will help you is if on top of that segmentation you use a message like this, which conveys at a user level of what the flight booking was made for. For example, I've included Delhi to Goa to sort of convey that the flight that you're searching for from Delhi to Goa for this particular date is now available at 15% off, and then you can go ahead and book it. So when you compare these two messages, what really seems powerful is the message underneath the personalization side. Now, what we've done here is on top of segmentation, we've used personalization to be able to get the best engagement out of any marketing communication, and which is something that you need to be doing. Now, before we start with personalization, the use cases, how you want to go about creating those use cases, you need to keep in mind four very important things that will give you the personalization edge. And I quite literally mean the edge. So the first thing that you need to be doing is you need to make sure that your user data is enriched. What I mean with that is that you're tracking or you're keeping a track of all the data points such as user attributes in the name of first name, location, city, etc., and also using all possible combinations of custom events such as added to cart, product viewed, and you're capturing all of these data points because at the end of the day, for a good personalization, data is the backbone, and you need to make sure that the data that you have is robust enough to be able to cater to any personalization example that you might want to implement. The second is you need to dissect your audience. While personalization helps you speak at a personal level to your user, it only makes it more better if you use segmentation on top of it. So if you're like from the previous example that I showed, we use segmentation and we use personalization on top of it to be able to generate the best result out of any marketing campaign that you're sending. So don't forget to dissect your audience. The third is you need to gauge message frequency. What I mean by this is you need to understand the times that you need to communicate with your user, the frequency of these nudges, and also what you're putting within these messages. Because with personalization, the messaging or the language that your message uses can get a little intrusive. So you need to be mindful of the number of nudges that you're sending to your consumer, as well as the kind of messaging that you're including in your content. The fourth and the last is you need to enhance your user experience. While we've been talking about creating seamless experiences of the user, you can leverage the WebEngage dashboard to create journey designer and to create relays and leverage various channels such as emails, SMS, to sort of send communications to users which are seamless in experience. Okay, coming to how you can get started with personalization in your WebEngage dashboard. I'll start with the basic of what can be personalized. So, in your messaging, you can personalize your text as we just saw. You can also personalize the image as well as the URL. Now, where can you implement this personalization? On your WebEngage dashboard, you can personalize in your channels such as email, mobile push, web push, SMS, and WhatsApp. So there's multiple channels that you can explore personalization with, and you can experiment with how your open rates are comparing to each other. Now, going to the how side of things, while we'll be covering this in detail as we go on to discussing the use cases, the basic building block of how depends on the data points that you're collecting or the data points that you have in your WebEngage dashboard, which is user attributes, which includes anything like first name, last name, city, location, gender, and so on, and also custom events. Custom events are events that you've defined. For example, product added to cart, category of product viewed, purchase made, and attached to it event attributes. Now, your event attributes will specify what your custom event is talking about. For example, if I say my custom event is add to cart, my event attribute can go ahead and explain to the user as to what item or what product was added to cart, what was the price of the product, and so on. You can also track the URL and the image of the product that was added to cart. Great. So now we've come on to discussing the use cases or how you need to implement these use cases. What I've done here is I've taken a crawl, walk, and run approach, to this entire use cases bit. We'll start off with basic use cases or use cases that are very basic in nature and they can be implemented in 2 minutes. So I'll start off with the basic use cases, go on to intermediate use cases, and then finally to advanced use cases. So starting off with the basic use case, the first use case that you need to be implementing is cart abandonment. Cart abandonment is when a user adds a product to your cart but does not proceed with the transaction. So, this could be a good point for you to send a communication or send a nudge to your user saying that, hey, there is something in your cart which you might have left, or which might you have forgotten about, and you need to go ahead and buy that. So now we know a lot of users do these cart abandonment emails or communication in the form of push notification. How you can up this game is by adding personalization to your messaging. To get the image on to get the image that's shown on the right, you would need certain data points. So you would need, under the user attribute, you would need the first name. For a trigger event, I've selected added to cart, and for my event attributes, I've collected more information on the trigger event, which is add to cart. And I've collected the add to cart product name or product ID. You can also collect the add to cart image and the URL. Now, we'll just explain to you how you can go about creating a very simple cart abandonment personalization for any channel that you're working on. So here I am under the messaging part of the channel. I'm putting something on the lines of hi. I'll click on the human icon, go into user attributes and select first name, which will pick the first name for the user. Here, what you'll notice is that I'm also adding a default or a fallback value in case the username or the first name is empty. Under messaging, again, I'll go into my custom events, pick add to cart, and under add to cart, select the product attribute. And then I'll put my messaging something about got product name on mind. For my on click action, I'll again go back to custom events. I'll go back to add to cart and use my page URL to redirect the users to the specific page. Again, to add your image, I'll again go back to add to cart custom event. I'll put the image URL, and now I'll quickly give you a raw preview of how this would look like if you were to if you were to execute a similar campaign. Now you can see on the right, you can see red shoes and a messaging that says something like, hi Tanya, got red shoes on your mind. So through the very simple usage of the human icon on your messaging, you can go around implementing personalization by selecting the data point that you want to include in your messaging. Coming to the second use case, which is search abandonment, which is when a user, let's say a user viewed a certain category or a product page but then did not take any further action. To get a message that you can see on the right, we'll be using user attribute as first name. The trigger event we'll be using here is category viewed, and the event attributes we'll be using is the subcategory or the category name and the subcategory image and the subcategory URL. Now let's quickly go back to behind the scenes to understand how you can do this on your WebEngage dashboard. Like before, pick any of your campaign and go into the messaging section. Now I'll start by saying something as looking for. I'll click on the human icon, go to my custom event and go to category viewed this time and select my subcategory to give the name of the category that the user was searching for. Now I'll come to the message and put some generic messaging on the lines of explore from our selection of 50 plus products or brands and get great offers on your purchase. Once I do that, I will now go ahead and go to the on-click action. For on-click action, what you can do here is again go into your custom events, category viewed, and go into your page URL to redirect users to that specific category page. If you want, you can add buttons here, and I'm just gonna quickly show a user preview of how this would look like. So once I search and populate the values for any user and click on see preview, you can look the messaging on the right says looking for beauty products and the generic messaging that we had put. So this is how you can explore a search abandonment kind of a campaign while using personalization. Coming to the third basic use case, which is purchase feedback. Now, you might have noticed a lot of big brands such as Amazon doing such communication. When you purchase a product, they send you a push notification or a communication asking for feedback on that product. While it is very, very important to not just send messages to your users on the basis of an action that taken, such as abandoned cart, it's also important to make sure that you're nurturing your users with such messages asking them for feedback on their purchase. So, how you need to go about this to show a message something similar to what's shown on the right, we follow the same process we followed for cart abandonment and search abandonment previously. What we'll change here, apart from the username, which is first name, user attribute, which is first name, the trigger event we'll be using here is purchase made or any other custom event that you're using to track purchases of your users. Under event attribute, we'll track the subcategory name, and also the URL. Now, like we did for cart abandonment and for search abandonment, you will go ahead and create a similar campaign, but instead of putting your trigger event as add to cart or product viewed, the trigger event you will add here is purchase made and the following event attributes to sort of get a messaging that says on the right, which is enjoyed your stay at Taj Delhi. So the Taj Delhi is coming from your subcategory. Joy is your first name, and we hope you enjoyed your stay at Taj Delhi, which again is the subcategory name. And you can also redirect users to this particular URL to give their final feedback. Moving forward, now I'll be covering the intermediate use cases. Um, a product wishlist use case can be implemented under such circumstances where, let's say, a user has added a product to his or her wishlist and the product unfortunately was out of stock. Now, let's say that the product has come back to stock. This would be a very good time to message your users, and this is a nudge that you should not be missing out on. So, if your product has come back to stock or has been restocked, you would want to send your users a nudge saying that, hi, your wishlisted product has come back to stock and you might want to consider purchasing it. Since you know that this is your lowest hanging fruit, because these users have already shown an interest in your particular product, it only makes sense to give them a nudge. How we're going to go about it is we're going to create a relay and trigger a business event for product restock. The data attributes we'll be using here are first name and the user attribute. For the trigger event, we'll be using product wishlist because which is where we're starting our hypotheses from, which is when a user added a product to your wishlist and that product was restocked. The event attributes you'll be using here are the name or the ID of the product that was added to wishlist, the image, and the URL. Now let's see how you can do this in your WebEngage dashboard. Perfect. So I've come into the relay, and what I've done here is I've set when a business event occurs. So now my business event is product restocked. Now I'm going to map this business event to my event attribute done by the user, which is product wishlist. Now, after that, I will assign my user event attribute and map that to my business event attribute. I've used the product name here, but you can also use the product ID for a better match. I'll click on save and select a channel wherein I would want to reach my users out to. I'll quickly go ahead and show you how this messaging would look like. What I've done here is I've put the first name of the user, and after buy, I've put the product that they had wishlisted. In the messaging, I've added something like your wishlisted product is back in stock and also given the name of the product that they had wishlisted. I'll quickly do a preview of this to show you how the message would look like. If I go ahead and search and populate the value and see preview, you can say that it says Tanya buy red shoes now. Your wishlisted product red shoes is back in stock. So I was able to see that if Tanya had wishlisted red shoes in her product and those were restocked, I'm able to send a message which is something similar to this. Moving on to catalog. While catalog is a relatively new feature that a new feature that we have in your entire recommendation stack, I highly recommend you using this, because using catalog, what you can do is you can fetch the updated data for any product that you have. Now, this might be very relevant for products wherein the price keeps fluctuating or changing. What you can do here is simply following on the abandoned cart use case that we followed. You can set up a CSV file uploading to us, where you can fetch the updated product name, the product price, and the URL. What you'd be using here is your event attributes such as product ID, product name, product URL, and product price to get a messaging something similar to right. Now, through a quick screenshot, I'll show you what you need to do to implement catalog. Towards the right, you can see a very simple set of CSV file or a sample CSV file that you need to be uploading to us. What that should contain is product ID, which is mandatory, and followed by the other details that you would want to capture, such as product name, product price, product URL, and product image. Now, this update can be based on your frequency. You can do it on a day to day basis, or we can set up a time that you would want this data to be refreshed. Now, coming back to the image on the left, I have shown you a quick screenshot of how the catalog would look like when you're personalizing it in your messaging. So, starting off with the same first name that we've been talking about so far, I'd go ahead and put my messaging something as your wish listed items are updated. Under messaging, I've put in buy, and within my curly bracket, something that says catalog, product one, and product name, which will fetch the first product name from here. And I've also put the product price to be fetched. So, like you were doing for abandoned cart, similarly, instead of putting your event as added to cart, we'll be using the catalog side of things to get or to fetch the name and the price. I've done the same thing that you can do that we've been doing with the URL to track the particular URL that was added to cart or that has been mentioned in your catalog, and similarly for the image. Once you do that, you'll be able to fetch the updated price and the details for your products, and be able to send it out to your customers with the updated price or the updated messaging. Great. So coming into the third use case, the third intermediate use case, which is location focused. Now, consider this example wherein you're launching your new collection, and let's say you want to segregate your messaging between users who are in Delhi and show them a message that says something on the lines of winter collection, versus users who are in Mumbai and you want to focus your messaging on summer collection. So, how do you go around doing that? Now, it's very easy to do that, and we'll follow a very simple logic of creating an if else condition. What we're doing here is we're trying to check if city is equals to Delhi, then you would want to show your winter collection. And if city is equals to Mumbai, then you would want to show your text which says summer collection. However, if city is not equals to Delhi and is not equals to Mumbai, you would want to show a fallback or a generic message which conveys something like browse our new collection at 25% off. I'll just quickly show you how you can go around doing this in your dashboard. Now, coming back, I've come to the very similar messaging platform that we've been, following in all these use cases we've discussed so far. So once you're in your messaging area, what I'm starting to do is I'm writing hi, and I'm using my user attribute first name. Once again, I'll add a default value to this to account for any missing first name values that might exist. And once I've done that, I'll go ahead with a simple text that says, we have something special for you. Now, in the messaging, what I'll do is I'll just quickly create a very simple if else condition. Now it might look intimidating at this point with the user, the system, and the city, and the entire text within your curly brackets. However, I assure you it is very very simple to for you to implement this once you get the hang of this. What I'm simply doing is checking for my city equals Delhi. If the city is equals to Delhi, I want my messaging to be like browse our winter wear collection at 25% off. Now I'm putting the else condition wherein I'm saying else if the user is in city equals Mumbai, I would want to show a messaging that says something like browse our summer wear collection at 25% off, which is what I'm doing right now. If you can see, I've put if else system city equals Mumbai. Now I'm going to put what the messaging needs to be for Mumbai, which is browse our summer wear collection at 25% off. Perfect. Now that we've done for Delhi and for Mumbai, going to the fallback value or value that other users would see, for that I'm just putting a simple else condition and saying browse our new collection at 25% off. So this messaging will be delivered for users who lie outside of a Delhi or a Mumbai region, and I simply end my condition. So you saw that it just took me what 2 minutes to create this. However, it's very very easy to create this, yet it is very very powerful because using your location data and customizing or personalizing your message according to that can be really powerful and can get you to engage with your users. I'll do a quick user preview to show how it would look like. It says, Hi Tanya, browse our winter wear collection because Tanya was based out of Delhi. Now, I'll change my user preview a little bit to show you what happens if the user is based in Mumbai. See, you can see it says, Hi there, browse our summer wear collection. So, which is where for audiences that are based in Delhi will get the winter wear collection, whereas the users who are based in Mumbai will get the summer wear collection update. Great. Now coming to the advanced use cases. So for my advanced use cases, the first use case I want to discuss is a little bit of logic and a little bit of personalization. What I've done here is I've considered products that can be consumed within n number of months or within a finite time. These could be anything from your grocery products, which can be consumed within 24 hours, to something like products of beauty, something on the lines of moisturizer, which we've shown on the right. And we will sort of assign a timeline or an ideal timeline within which a user is expected to finish these products or finish using these products. Once we've identified what this ideal timeline is, we can go ahead and send a nudge to the user if the user hasn't made a purchase already, and nudge that user to say that hey, it's time for you to restock on your product and you can just tap and buy it now. So what I've done here is the example that I've taken here is of a moisturizer. Based on some research I did using cohorts and trying to figure out what the repeat purchase timeline has been for this particular product, moisturizer, I've come to the timing of 1 month for a user to be able to finish using this product. So after 1 month, I would want to send a nudge to that user saying that, hi, is it time for you to restock on your moisturizer? Well, here you go. So what we'll be doing this to create an image, what you can see on the right, we'll simply create a very simple journey using the journey designer, and I'll just walk you through how you can go about it. You can start by selecting your occurrence of event, and this occurrence would be your purchase made. Now I'll add a wait block or a wait for event block and check if the user has made a purchase within the time frame of 1 month which I've assigned for. Now I'll select the same event here, which is purchase made, and check if the purchase has been made within 1 month. If the purchase has not been made, I will go ahead and select the channel that I would want to reach out to my user on and connect them with the on timeout area. Now, once I've done that, I'll show you how you can personalize your message within this journey. So once you come onto the message section, I'll simply go ahead, click on user attributes and select my first name. I'll also add a hi before that just to add like a formal touch. And I'll also add a default value to this name in case the name is blank or empty. Again, this is a very good practice that you should be implementing in your campaigns. A fallback value is must or is essential. Now I'll write something on the lines of time to restock. Now coming to the messaging, I'll just put my messaging and say something on the lines of restock on. I'll go to custom events, select the purchase made and select the product name here. Once I've done that, I would also want my users to consider other products from within the same category, which is exactly what I'm doing here as I'm picking up my subcategory. Once I'm done, I will go ahead and select my on-click action. Again, going into my custom events, purchase made, and selecting the page URL, which will lead the users to the exact specific page. For the image, I'll be doing something similar and picking up my image URL. Now I'll give you a quick user preview of how this would look like. Perfect. So once you click on see preview, you can see the image on the right that says hi there. Now there because the first name was missing and time to restock. Now it also says that restock on moisturizer, which is the product that you know that the user had purchased, and other beauty products, which is the subcategory that the earlier product belongs to. So this is how you can sort of formalize your messaging in terms of if a user has made a purchase, sending them product restock reminders, which can also be really powerful and really engaging. Great. Now I'll cover two advanced use cases simultaneously. The first one is recommendation. As the name suggests, recommendation is suggesting you products based on a certain event or a certain user attribute. Now the trigger event that I'm using here, or for example purposes, what I'm considering here is add to cart. So based on this trigger event of add to cart, I will recommend products which will be similar to the ones that you added to cart and give you an email which is something similar to what you can see over here. And we'll also cover the third advanced use case, which is best-selling products. Now, following on the recommendation, the best-selling product follows the same model and the same guideline. Instead of showing you the recommended products, what you'll be able to show is the best-selling or the top-selling products for your brand. Now, I'll quickly go into the WebEngage dashboard side of things to show you how this would work. What you can do here is you can begin by creating a very simple journey. Now, how I go about this journey is I've used my I've used my trigger as the occurrence of an event, and my event is when the product was added to cart, which I took for example. Over here, you can take any custom event that you want your recommendation to be based on. But I've selected add to cart here, so my occurrence event is add to cart. Then I'm putting a wait block and seeing if the purchase has been made up to in 1 day. So I'm giving my user time up until 1 day to make that purchase. If not, then on timeout, I'm just checking if my user is reachable on email and sending the user an email which will have the product that was added to cart as well as the recommended products based on the add to cart event. Now, how your email would look like is something like this. While I know it's in the HTML format, I'll just give you a quick raw preview of what it's going to look like, and how the final image would look like is also something I'll explain. So what we've done here is very simply we've captured your custom event, which is add to cart. We'll also show you the image in the same way that we did for the added to cart basic use case that we discussed. Here is where it gets into an advanced use case where we send you product recommendations. Now what you simply need to do is understand what you want to send recommendations on. Since we've already settled that the trigger event we'll be using here is add to cart, we will recommend you products based on add to cart. So this is where your image would go, this is where the name would go, and this is where your price would go. Basis you're capturing all of these data points. You can also mix this message in terms of changing. If you don't want to mention the price, you can skip the price bit, or if you want to add other details, you can add that basis on the events that you're tracking. I'll quickly go back and show how this would look like. Perfect. So the image on the left is something that I showed you just now, which is like a raw format of how your email would look like. But the image on the right is how it would translate to once you send it out or once your user receives this email. So let's say if the product that you added to cart was this lamp, based on this added to cart, we've recommended you four similar products that the user or that you would want your user to consider for purchasing. Now, while I understand that this might look very intimidating at this point, it's very, very easy to implement this. And since this is a relatively new update into the entire personalization stack for us here at WebEngage, we will also be helping you in implementing this recommendation model. So all you need to do is either reach out to our services team or to your customer success managers, and we'll guide you from there. Now, how we did for recommendation, similarly, you can also follow the same recommendation model to give out your best selling products. Great. We've covered quite a lot for personalization, but you know what? There is still a lot more that you can do with your personalization. What we covered just now was personalization within your campaigns, within your channels such as email, SMS, and so on. There is one very important channel that you should be personalizing or that you should be leveraging personalization on, which is your own website. So, since being considerate of the time and the amount of information we've discussed, I'm going to be dividing this webinar into two parts, and we'll cover the web personalization side of things for our upcoming webinar. I hope you're excited about that, as I am, because just like how you saw, personalization can really help you boost your engagement. And just imagine if that personalization also follows on your website and gives your user the personalized experience based on data they've provided to you in terms of their likes, their dislikes, and other such data points. Perfect. With this, we've come to the end of our webinar. I know this was a lot to cover in terms of multiple use cases we discussed. While this might have been like an overload of information, this is a great point for you to give you any questions, for you to give me any questions or feedback. At this point, I would want to open the platform for questions. You can put in your questions in the comment section, and I'll be addressing them one by one. Let me just quickly skip the presentation view. Great. On this webinar, I also have with me the product manager here at WebEngage, Niket, who will also be helping me address some of these questions that you guys might have. Perfect. So we'll get started with one question that we have, which is, can I personalize an attachment? If yes, how? Okay, Niket, would you want to take this question up?
Sure. So basically, in terms of, let's say, if you want to send a PDF or any sort of an invoice, right? So there are two ways to do it. One is, if these are transactional emails, we have a separate pipeline specifically carved for transactional campaigns. Right? So you can utilize those, and you can personalize the attachment as well. Second is, if you are using any normal, like let's say a cart abandonment campaign, and you want to add an attachment there, you can either upload a static attachment in your email campaigns, or you can make that personalized as well by, let's say, picking the link of the attachment from an event attribute, which could be an add to cart attribute, for example.
Perfect. I hope that answers your question. If there are any more questions that you can think of for personalization, or any questions that you might have on how you need to implement various personalization within your messaging, this is the correct time to ask. And just a quick recap of what we discussed. We discussed the basic personalization, starting from cart abandonment, search abandonment, to giving a product feedback. Then we went into the intermediate use cases, which was when a product has been wishlisted and the product goes and the product has been restocked, then sending a nudge to your users. We covered location based personalization, and we also covered your catalog. Great. We have another question here, which is, how are the recommended products being shown along with the cart items in email? So Shika, like I explained, what we've done here is we identified the custom event added to cart, and based on the product that you added to cart, the lamp, for example, that was shown previously, what we've done is, based on the product that you've added to cart, we've recommended products from our recommendation engine to show you similar products to what you had added in your cart. And we would definitely urge you to try this out once to understand or to see the impact yourself as to how the recommendation is working here. We have another question that says, how would this work when using WhatsApp as a medium? Um, so it would work very easily in the examples that I showed before. You were able to see a tiny human icon next to the messaging, right? When you're in your WhatsApp channel, and if you click on that human, you will be able to see both your user attributes and your custom events that you can select from and include that personalization in your messaging or your campaign. I hope that answers your question. Perfect. So, if you have any more questions, do feel free to reach out to any one of us here at WebEngage. We'll be happy to address your questions. And also, after the webinar has been done, we'll send you a recording of this. Plus, we'll also send you some other materials that will be helpful for you to get started with campaign personalization. Thank you, Niket, for your time here, and thank all of you for joining me on this webinar. I look forward to you guys implementing personalization in your campaigns. And if there's anything, you can definitely reach out to me or your CSMs. Thank you so much.